So to paraphrase the eternal Jane Jacobs, the city is for everybody when it is made by everybody. And today is all about understanding the needs of key workers such as couriers as an essential design element of the city, and especially to design the city in an inclusive manner. So as Olga said, we're going to hear from the project and testimonies for around 20 to 25 minutes, and then we have a Q&A session. So please write your questions in the chat. Olga and I will keep an eye on it and select the questions. And once we finish the presentation, we'll give you an opportunity to turn your mic on or your camera on and ask the question directly. So without further ado, I will pass on to Clara and Alejandro and renew my welcomes for everybody this evening.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for participating in this virtual workshop. I'm Clara, and I'm very honored to have this opportunity to work with Alejandro, my research partner, on the Young Urbanist small grant research. So our topic is about couriers in London and their perspective on urban space.
What's this?
Oh, looks like it's sometimes gone wrong.
So the current technology brings us a lot of easements. Meals can be easily ordered via food delivery apps like DeliverMe or Just Eat. Passenger can basically go on anywhere, whilst companies like Ubers or Bolt or Captain. As the coronavirus lockdown continues, most of us relies on internet to order and essentials and to save us all from venturing out. However, the easements which consumer like us can summon delivery to the front door can obscure the role that so-called the gig economy plays behind the scene. So in today's workshop, we would like to share with you all the key insights on the couriers often neglected intersectionality with the urban issues. It is intended not to just give voice to the couriers, but also provide a foothold forward for urbanists to think about how the future urban development. We hope that this workshop could initiate the dialogue from all of you on how the city should cope with the upgrowing technology-based delivery network. And the workshop would be divided into 3 sections. Firstly, we will talk about the research background of how we started our research on couriers with the Young Urbanist program and the importance of this topic. And then we will jump into the 4 key discovery from our research by interviewing and hosting a roundtable discussion with the couriers. And finally, we will do a short summary, and then we will open the floor to everyone for a discussion. Today, we are very pleased to have 2 guests, Sam and Alberto. They're both cyclists and couriers who are going to share with you their experience working under the COVID-19 situation. First of all, let us introduce ourselves. Alejandro and I are both registered architects from Foster & Partners. We pursued our study in architecture separately in the UK and in Spain, but we both developed a keen interest in urban design throughout our study and maintained that spirit while we were practicing in Foster. As you may already know, Foster & Partners is a multidisciplinary architectural practice, which is not just about designing buildings, but also look from the city scale. From public spaces, transport and streets that we pass through every day, to details of urban furniture that are close enough for us to touch. So in this kind of era of unprecedented changes, we anticipate resilient environments and believe in creating spaces and places that are inclusive to people from all walks of life and can adopt across season and generation. We have projects such as this, the Sky Cycle, which is essentially a proposal to create safe new cycle routes throughout London. So how did we start this project? With all these background knowledge and precedents that we had in mind, I remember there was a day that Alejandro and I sat in the company's canteen and chit-chat about couriers in delivery service like Amazon's and DeliverMe. We came across the idea of gig economy, which is an upgrowing trend, but a relatively new and unexplored area of work in urbanism research.
So the first thing we wanted to actually explore was what the gig economy was. So we've been all reading a lot of articles and news from protests and demonstrations of couriers that are actually fighting for their rights. But we actually wanted to make all their information ours and actually dig out all that information from that market. So obviously the first question was, the first question was, what is the gig economy and how does it operate? Then we would jump into why is it growing as much and why is it actually getting so popular, especially among the young generations. And the third one, because Clara and I, we come from an architectural and urbanism background, and we're all reading about articles and news, as I said, about especially about the terms and conditions of the contracts of the workers of the gig economy. But our main question was taking it from the architectural perspective, and then the question is, are cities gig economy friendly? So the BBC defines the gig economy as a labor market characterized by the prevalence of short-term contracts or freelance work. So, go back once. Sorry, I just missed out that slide, but I was just saying that the definition of that gives the BBC to the gig economy, that is actually based on temporary works in which people nowadays through the technology they get those temporary jobs and different tasks. The term gig and the market has also been in constant change, and it's got various different names for it. But the one that is actually stayed through the decades is the gig economy. And we all think the gig economy is a modern trend that is got like 10 or 20 years, but as we explore and analyze the market, we see that the gig economy actually spans more than 100 years, and it was coined back in the first 2 decades of the 20th century by jazz musicians in US, which were actually performing different concerts and temporary works from venue to venue. That's where it all began. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the history of this gig economy, but we see it all started back then, and it constantly evolved through the Great Depression in US. Also, right after that to the World War II, in which companies started to offer temporary works because of the demand of the time. And then there was the appearance of the internet and the web actually disrupted the market and created these big companies such as Upwork and Craigslist, in which employees could find different temporary works through the web. More going now to recent times, we've all heard about technology platforms such as Deliveroo, Uber, or Airbnb, which actually have changed the way we eat the way we move around the city, and the way we stay when we travel. And all these companies that are now, as Airbnb, worth billions. Uber, after 5 years after it was founded, had already reached 1 billion rides, and Deliveroo since 2013 has created over 20,000 restaurant jobs. And going back to now to 2019 and 2020, we see here in UK and in London that the trend is also getting very popular, and it has doubled from 1 year from 2018 to 2019, which now represents the 9.6% of the workforce of the country. Something similar happens in US. And we see that this trend was coined, as I said, 100 years ago, but it's got a future that is, because it's growing and growing. And we see that with the figure that says that already 60% of platform workers are aged between 16 and 34 years in the UK. So that means the gig economy was created a long time ago. It's now functioning with super high figures, and the trend is just gonna grow and grow. And why is that? Why do a lot of young people and the young generations want to join the gig economy? That's because of the flexibility, because of the control and ownership, and also because of the freedom to when and where to perform those jobs. They also see these temporary jobs as an opportunity to actually focus on results instead of focusing on processes, which means that in the end, you can find that task that you're doing as more meaningful. And on top of that, by the end of the month, you can have an extra money to support your alternative jobs. But of course, from good trends, all the positive things that come to it, there are also a lot of negatives that we actually that I actually mentioned before, and it's all those news that we read in magazines and newspapers about. Oh, sorry, it's lagging a little bit. Yeah, about the absence of a steady salary. They have no paid sick leave, no paid holiday leave. Not all of the platforms, but some of them, they pay the employees per delivery and not per hour. And I said employees, but actually most of these companies, they even consider these workers as independent contractors, which makes a huge difference and a huge challenge for them to do their job. So, as I said, architects and urbanists, we also want to be part of that conversation, and not only focusing the protests and the demonstrations and considering contracts and job conditions, but we also want to make the urbanism of our cities part of that gig economy. And the first thing Clara and I were wondering if our urbanism is actually oriented towards the gig economy, and that's how we started the research and to bring urbanists and architects on board.
So we built the interest in understanding the couriers and kind of built the empathy of the situation they might have encountered as an independent contractors. So this leads to the proposal of a research, DeliverMe, last mile gig urbanism. Our vision is simply engaging, documenting, evaluating the perspective of London gig economy on the urban space. So rather than looking from a top-down perspective, we wanted to conduct the research from a bottom-up and from the courier's eyes. For the couriers, the project provides a platform for expressing their concerns and experience on urban space. For Urbanists, it serves as a pilot project that inspired urban awareness of the upgrowing gig economy and their public expressions. So last year, Alejandro and I had the opportunity to represent Foster & Partner to participate in the Young Urbanist program. We have submitted the project as a proposal around October, and we're honored to obtain the Young Urbanist Small Grant Award in December. We gained sponsorship from both the Academy of Urbanism and Foster & Partner, which are very much appreciated. The original plan was to gather the information from the couriers by professional video recording, communicating as a short visual manifesto. And we would like to share the outcomes of the symposium and the design rates. Obviously, it is quite difficult nowadays to organize a physical event, and hence we decided to go with this virtual platform as an informal symposium. So essentially, the project was divided into 2 stages, discovery and sharing. As a first step, we had approached 2 couriers out there and organized a filmed interview and a roundtable discussion for those who are willing to be filmed. The roundtable discussion was the main discovery meeting where couriers were invited to attend to share their points of view on the city urban space. And their response towards the urban environment concerns were carefully documented and captured in a mapping exercise with all these sticky notes and markers. Oops. And after the workshop, we circulate an action camera to the participant to record their daily life on the streets. We planned to film with the courier as well, but unfortunately, due to the social distancing, we're not able to do so. However, some of the messengers took some really stunning video themselves and even add music to them. Here, I'm going to share with you one of the examples. So this video is from Adam, one of the cyclists that we have spoken to. The video is about the journey of him getting the letter from one company to another. An interesting fact about messengers, which is what they call themselves, is that their rates, the daily rates, is charged by the waiting time that they wait outside the company or in the lobby. So most of the company doesn't even provide a space to sit or for parking for the bike. So rather, the couriers usually find a park or a coffee shop nearby to stay with the bike and keeping the bike with them. That's to prevent the bike from being stolen. However, you can see from the video that couriers love the job, in particularly the flexibility and enjoyment of being able to navigate around the city. So from all these kind of interview, roundtable workshop that we had, there are loads of feedback that from these couriers that we're not really aware of. Such as here, you can see couriers are vulnerable to theft, not just for cyclists, but fans also at risk because when they're leaving the engine on. There's typically no parking near restaurants as these are mostly located in high streets. There are endless loading bays in East London, but they're mostly on a sloping ramp, so they are not effective at all for loading goods. So from all these kind of messages and information conversation that we have with couriers, we start to see the city in another way. Here, we'd like to share with you 4 categories of our finding. So Alejandro is going to share with you.
Yeah, so the main key findings were sorted by 4 categories. The first one is the traffic, the second one is the safety, the third one is awareness, and the fourth one is related to the pandemic that we're all suffering of. And as Clara mentioned, we have 2 careers in the call that they've been working also during these weeks of lockdown here in London, and they'll be able to share a bit of their experience. So the main topic, which is the traffic, focuses mainly on the different areas in London and which opportunities and challenges they have. The second one is the urban facilities that focus especially on the parking. And the third one, which is a very important topic, is the road interaction between cyclists, pedestrians, and cars. So the first topic is covered by Stephen, who is a gig economy worker, and he's also known as Gig Guy London. And he's usually, you can find him in YouTube and Instagram. He's posting different videos working in the gig economy, and he actually wants to spread the experience through the wider public, for everyone to know what it's like to be a gig economy worker. So he's talking about the lack of proper parking when he wants to do his delivery. We're gonna listen to it.
Previously, issues are still with walking to the restaurants, and it could be a considerable distance, having to find parking, turning around on numerous occasions when I pull up to a restaurant trying to find adequate parking in the vicinity of the restaurant, and then obviously picking up the order, going back to my vehicle, and then going to the drop-off location, and at times having to find parking there as well, and sometimes double parking in order to carry out my delivery.
So Stephen, as I said, he's been working in for different platforms of gig economy, and he's been using different means of transport. He's talking here about moving around with the car, but we also were quite used to see the image on the right in which cyclists didn't have proper urban facilities to park their bikes when delivering, or as you see on the left hand side would be the opposite, in which actually a private platform, in this case, is delivered. They're actually collapsing the public infrastructure of the city, which obviously is a big problem. The second topic is the road interaction, which Alberto, who's in the call with us, he's been a push bike career for 3 years. He's going to talk about how difficult is the relationship between the different actors that are on the road. Oh, sorry.
Still a long way, like, to have a good relationship between pedestrians, cars, and all the rest of the users of the road.
And on top of that difficult interaction, he also mentions that cycle lanes are too narrow, And that leads us to think that the cycling infrastructure within the City of London still has a long way to be improved. Here we see two crazy examples. Sorry. Sorry, yeah, two different examples here of the lack of good infrastructure. Here on the left, we see a bus stop that is being placed right in the middle of a cycle lane, and then the one on the right just shows a cycle lane that is being improvised, and of course cars are parking on top of it. And the third topic that I was mentioning within the traffic issues, the different areas of London, which actually offer good opportunities and also big challenges. Alberto is saying that the City of London, because the streets are super narrow and there's a lot of traffic, he's super excited and gets a lot of adrenaline when performing his job. On the other side, Zach, who was also part of the Discovery workshop, is an Amazon courier and controller, and he really struggles when he has to work in Oxford Street because it's full of tourists, full of traffic, and he's got as he said, 200 parcels waiting in his van to be delivered. So obviously the challenge is huge. All those thoughts, as also Clara mentioned before, we put it on a map of London in which we wanted to track and let the couriers tag different possibilities and opportunities and challenges that the city has in terms of how flat the city is and hilly, where we could implement a cycle superhighway, where we have good areas to rest, and so on and so forth. The second main point would be the safety, which focuses on self-employment, road knowledge, and the existence of courier unions. Here we have Sam, who is also connected, and he's going to be talking in a bit. He's been bike courier for 5 years, and he talks about the conditions that gig economy workers have to deal with.
So no sick pay, no holiday pay. So without that, you got to work hard.
Yeah, so it's as we're trying to raise the awareness, it's a super challenge for them because of contractual conditions, but also the conditions that they find in the streets, in the avenues, in the public space in general. As we're going to see here in this video, that it represents very clearly the lack of respect and good infrastructure that cities such as London has, and is causing accidents in situations such as this one. Oh, sorry. What happens there, as you see, is that a car is parking on top of the cycle lane, and then the couriers have to be cycling in the middle of the road, which obviously it's a situation that we're really used to, but it comes from the zero respect from and the road interaction that we have in inner cities, on top of the lack of good infrastructure that gives them a proper space for them to perform the deliveries.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the third topic, which is about awareness. Please take a look at this video clip here.
I think the main issue that I have is when I'm picking up people and they're standing at the bus stop. I can't stop at the bus stop. I can stop before the bus stop, or I can stop just after the bus stop. I can't stop at the bus stop.
But you can stop at the bus and the cycle lane. If it's a cycle lane like drawn to the front and on the side of the road, it's a just yellow line. You can stop there.
Yeah, briefly to pick up and set down. I can stop on a red line.
So you're stopping him then.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're a cyclist.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is the issue brought up in the video of the awareness of shared space.
I think the main issue that I have is.
So shared space is an urban design approach originated by a Dutch traffic engineer, Hans Monderman, that minimizing the segregation between modes of road users. It is a belief that by the mixing of the different traffic modes and make it unclear to who has the priority, the driver will slow down and be more cautious about the other road users. Obviously, with more and more couriers being in the city, it has already introduced many different types of road users and create the shared space. The trouble is the lack of awareness of this shared space, which creates the traffic and the safety issue that we have discussed above. The problem of the gig awareness can also be reflected by how most of our interviewers are kind of self-promoted to gain exposure. Steve, as Alejandro mentioned, who is a biker, a van driver, Uber driver, DeliverMe, and captain driver. He has started his own YouTube channel to share his daily job and tips of this gig industry. So here you can see this is his YouTube channel, which has a lot of tips about where to get the passenger, what kind of area it's the most popular area for his job. And Adam here, who is a bike messenger, is also an Instagram influencer. He's sharing story about bike messenger network in London with all these kind of stunning images. So there's actually people, there's a lot of couriers out there who are willing to tell us what this gig economy really is. We have asked the courier to record a message to the young urbanists, and here is what Alberto, the push biker, said.
Well, in terms of Urbanists, I think more safe, like I would like to have more like real cycle lanes, like actually you can see basically, or you kind cross in the cycle lane, not like just fake like painted lanes on the side, and also they apply to the parking highway rules because it's a cycle lane. I don't know what it's like. I think like everyone is allowed to park. So more cycle lanes, also more respect to the cyclists in general, not just couriers. No, like we try to make a difference, or like using a bicycle just to make more greener, the environment, but it's like not respect at all, and not like any knowledge of like about the cyclists on the road.
Yeah, so the key message here is definitely respect, be respect of other road users.
Well.
So the last session here we want to bring up is definitely the pandemic. Well, in ordinary time, just 2 months ago, really, many of us barely noticed the workers bring essentials to our doorstep. They have become more and more important, and more important than ever in the fight to control coronavirus. Couriers and delivery driver brings grocery to vulnerable people, and those are self-isolating and social distancing. Last month, the delivery driver critical's role in keeping the country functioning was recognized by the government, and they have been added to the list of key workers alongside doctors, nurses, and social workers. But we think that the coronavirus has highlighted the precocious nature of gig economy. They're doing some of the most important jobs around right now, but with some of the least protections. At the moment, companies like Ocado offers hand sanitizer and wipes to their employees. But virtually all delivery drivers and couriers are self-employed, and that they are only eligible to statutory basic. So tonight, we're very honored to have both Alberto and Sam, who are going to share with you their firsthand experience under COVID-19. So Alberto and Sam, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Before I pass over to you, I'm sharing a short video from Sam actually at the background, which is about his workday in the city since this lockdown. So please feel free to start, Sam, and Alberto, I'm going to leave the floor to you. You can start to speak while having this video as a background, if you want.
As you see, you have time even to check your phone now with no traffic.
Can you, Alberto, tell us a little bit about your experience along these 2-3 weeks, and how do you feel that now you're a key worker for the society? Alberto and Sam.
That's for me, Alberto, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, it's been quite difficult adapt to all this, I don't know, new rules, also social distancing. First, it was kind of like a huge impact on myself, like when I just come out the first day of lockdown and see all the streets that are empty. City of London, it was absolutely empty. It was, I don't know, like I was shocked, when I see all that. In terms of working, it's just basically a little bit more quiet. Companies are still running, and companies are still delivering papers. They need signatures, so we just do what we can. Basically, most of it is just collect documents from the main offices or delivering from the private properties or private houses, and also between them, between different clients, and just small papers, small packages, nothing else. It's really quiet right now, and it's kind of scary. Also, we don't get sick pay or even like help for the government or things like that. As a self-employed, you need to wait for this help from the government. But yes, kind of a bit difficult right now for all of us. It's really quiet on the streets, and also all the companies they close. So yeah.
What about you, Sam? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Going through Soho, Trafalgar Square, Covent Garden, you don't see that really empty that every day. What going to say? Yeah, about the companies, career companies. I'm lucky enough to join with Anthony Lee since August. What I heard with my other previous careers colleague I was working for, my last company, they can't work because they had to go to office, pick a package from the office every morning, and that's closed down now. So they're really struggling. I'm lucky enough, but I'm struggling as well. So I basically only get work between 3 to 6 drops a day. Normally I do that 12. It's really tiring because this is from the office pickup points. It's just literally far distance, about say 7-10 miles away.
What do you both think about the title of key workers?
Well, I don't consider myself a key worker. I'm doing this more because I like it. Cycle, it gives you the opportunity to cycle every day with empty streets. It's actually a pleasure. Like, honestly, you can't imagine. Sorry for the rest of the people who's driving, but it's incredible right now. Also, you feel safer, and it's just amazing. Also, the weather, it was a perfect combination. But yeah, I don't consider myself a secure worker. I just want to keep my company in particular, or the company I provide services for, I want to keep it running, and I'm helping as much as I can. And just because I would like to have a job, or maybe when all of this is finished, because logistics industry is kind of you can see the end of the line. No, like it's more like printing or sending emails. It's overtaking from printing, no, a document or a signature. So I just outside because I have the opportunity, and government consider myself as a gay worker. Even I don't, but I feel like I do more for myself as an individual, just because I like to be outside, and also like cycling. I like the job as well.
And Sam, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, same thing with Alberto. Being a key worker on the road doesn't count as a key worker because being the road on the empty road doesn't mean we actually essential key worker because we still get drivers driving reckless, driving too close to us. We had an accident just around the corner from my place when they had a driver speeding around the corner out of nowhere. That's just literally putting us at risk. Like I said before, we don't get any sick pay work. If he had hit me on a blind bend, I can't work. So really, key work is not that important to us anymore.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Alberto and Sam. And I think everyone would have a lot of questions to ask you both. But let me first of all summarize maybe our presentation so that we can open the floors for Q&A discussion with you both. Okay. So to conclude, the workshop of research, it's basically bringing up the perspective of couriers, as you can see here, and trying to direct attention from the Urbanists. We have discussed the current uprising gig economy and the main issue that have faced by the couriers in the categories of, traffic, safety, awareness of the share space, and the pandemic. You might think that being a courier is more of a personal choice. True, all the couriers that we talk to, like Sam and Alberto, they all enjoy what they're doing now, and they're willing to take their own risks of being part of the gig economy. But the things they encounter, they encounter a lot of problems every day. Rather than complaining to us, they kind of choose to adapt to the situation proactively, and I really appreciate that. However, the COVID-19 situation actually gave us a moment of reflection. The president's lockdown period wouldn't be as smooth without the support of these workers. It is no doubt that the gig economy has become and will become an important infrastructure and access of the country. So yeah, I personally do think the key workers mean something, and it's something to all of us. And I think the courier trend is going to expect a continuous growth, and the market size is going to increase by 10% this year, which is a 53 billion increase. More and more people will be joining the gig economy. And then perhaps it's a time for us to rethink how our city should be more inclusive and what kind of facilities should we accommodate to help the city better to suit the this upgrowing trend. So Alejandro?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you like to add your conclusion?
Sorry
as well?
that I had
No worries.
connections problems. So yeah, I mean, I missed Alberto and some of the last things that you were saying, but yeah, with all the conclusion that Clara said, I think we as architects and urbanists, and I'm pretty sure we have also other disciplines here connected in the call. We both, especially, we envision the future of the gig economy and the couriers as a collaborative environment and shared environment, as we also saw in the sketches. And we're probably going to see an environment in which we have traditional careers, but also other forms of careers, more let's say modern, such as autonomous vehicles that are going to be delivering across the city, and even drones that will deliver from the air. So I think we architects and urbanists, we have to think also about all the different parts that are going to be part of the present and the near future of our cities and built environments. So with that, I think we close the presentation, and yeah, now we're going to start, as Julie mentioned in the beginning, a session of questions and answers. And please feel free to drop a line on the chat, and so we can share a bit of also your thoughts and ideas about the topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We have such interesting conversations running in parallel along the chat, especially I think on shared space. And I think for me, there's like this question around providing good cycle infrastructure for courier, but also for everyone else, because I think if you design well for courier, you actually benefit most people. But there's this whole, I think, discussion between segregated infrastructure versus shared spaces. And obviously there's so much pressure for road space, there's so much competition for it. I think we need to think about, is it going to be segregation of infrastructure? Is this going to be these elevated cycle lanes that we saw in your sketch, Clara? Mm-hmm. Or is it going to be shared space? But then the conflicts that can come with that is something we need to think about. I saw that Joanna had a question on shared space, and maybe you want to clarify it, Joanna, if you're still with us. And it was a question on, does it work in theory? Do you want to expand on that? Or I don't know if are you still muted? I'll just move to another question. So Michaela, are you still around? Yes. And Michaela and Simon were making some interesting comments as well about reallocating road space. I've seen that in Auckland, New Zealand. That's what they've started doing. They've got these like drop-off and pickup points along the curbside, and they've extended some pavements with some decking systems and some kind of interesting solutions. Do you have anything else you want to expand on, Simon or Michaela? Ask your question now.
I was curious to get some insight from the perspective of bike couriers that we've spoken to. If you have any good experience in London of cycling infrastructure, you think we've already done well, we could be looking at? Because for instance, the other day I was cycling somewhere in Camden and there was a cycle lane, then there was a parking row, and then the road. So like there was a cycle lane that was protected by the parked cars. And I thought that was one of the good examples for me that I hadn't seen before. I wondered if you could just share your experience on this kind of little arrangement that you've noticed during your days.
I'm going to make a point of that. A cycle lane behind in a car park, or a car parking like on the lane, it's actually quite dangerous. You put in risk of the courier or the cyclist when you open the doors. So opening the doors, you can make like hit the cyclist in that side. So
oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I get the point.
I don't see personally. I don't see as an improvement. I see as like a patch to just take the cyclist from the road, but it make it really dangerous as any car can open the door and you can be dored easily. If you remove the parking of the car and you just leave what is like the cycle lane, it would be the ideal.
Yeah, I mean, in general, when we talk about cycle infrastructure, putting a cycle in the wrong place can actually make things worse. And that's exactly what you're talking, the dooring risk. So the cycle lane is not always a good thing. It actually has to be designed very sensitively. I think I had a question from Natalia Guerrero. Did you speak with the restaurants? What do you think about their role, I guess? Do they need to be leading on the initiatives to improve? Are they earning from deliveries?
Unfortunately, from my side, I cannot speak about food delivery. Just the logistics and same day. So I just deliver packages and documents and legal documents. So I cannot tell you about like what's going on right now, COVID-19 restaurant and food delivery industry.
Mm.
Yeah,
And
we haven't had the chance to talk to restaurants, but I'm pretty sure that they're all working with together with delivery platforms such as DeliverMe and Uber Eats to bring up some initiatives. I'm not really sure. We also saw that with Amazon that they've been implementing some urban facilities such as lockers within the streets and supermarkets where couriers can drop their parcels and then the user would pick them up. So I'm pretty sure in the future that something similar will happen with food delivery companies.
I've also visited to one of the Chinese restaurants downstairs, like who I'm very close to. It's interesting they have organized an area which is near. It's almost like a threshold before entering the restaurant, but they provide seats for couriers, like delivery drivers, and for them to wait to get the deliveries before like going everywhere. I think it's something that a restaurant can provide, especially most of the earnings actually nowadays from takeaways.
Yeah, actually that's something that I missed, but Clara pointed out that it's a global trend that is happening a lot of in London, but also in cities worldwide, which are the so-called dark kitchens, which are kitchens which are providing only takeaway deliveries. So most restaurants, they're placing their restaurants out of high streets where the rent is high and where maybe the traffic is not making deliveries as easy. So they're placing restaurants in kitchens in containers in cheaper places, areas of the cities where they're cooking only for deliveries. And those, for example, in Deliveroo is already implementing that, and these are called editions. These kitchens that they're placing in London, but also in other cities in Europe. And those places, they've got kitchens, but they also provide facilities for couriers to wait while they get their new delivery. So I think in line with the food delivery industry, that's there is a long way to be discovered, and restaurants are actually taking the lead together with technology platforms.
Great. There was one last question from Pauline. If Pauline, you want to ask this question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. So I just wondered, I think everyone talked quite a lot about respect, and I was wondering if you had some ideas on how we could actually do that in practice. So I grew up in Switzerland, and we basically have lots of training to cycle in the streets. And I wonder if you know, if like a more active training would be a way.
That's definitely a way. Alberto actually mentioned in our group discussion that not all the cyclists have the same knowledge, which kind of caused the problem that, you know, sometimes when they don't look at traffic lights, they're crossing when there's a red light, and it causes trouble to van drivers and people actually using the left lane. I think definitely for sure, I think it goes back to the idea of the awareness and kind of knowledge of different users on the road. And you are right. I think maybe there should be a lesson to be learned by everyone.
If I can add something, as an example, the square you can see in every traffic light is designated to cyclists to stay ahead of the traffic. That's something, or a square, you not should be overtaken by a car, and also you can be fined. You can get a fine or a ticket if any police officer, but that rule or motorway highway rule is not reflected in any way. So it's kind of like the drivers they're not educated properly about their users as a cyclist. So cyclist is considered as a sport, but not as another user from the road. When in other countries, they already consider check your mirrors, or even like you can see stickers in some of the car producers where they say check your both mirrors in case of a cyclist. So yeah, definitely will improve.
Clara, I wonder, can I offer a couple of thoughts? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Andy.
Yeah. Yep. Hi everyone. I'm Andy. I work with Clara and Alejandro, and I'm probably one of the oldest young urbanists on this call. But I'm very happy to listen in. And for me, the first project I worked on in the office was 24 years ago, and it was the pedestrianisation of Trafalgar Square. And we, at the time, did a very big pedestrian and traffic survey in London. And Trafalgar Square used to be a roundabout. There used to be cars on all sides, the way there is in Parliament Square. And we took the traffic out on the north side. But what that study started was conversations about London becoming more of a walking city, more of a cycling city. We had conversations about cycle lanes, about the congestion charge, and trying to make London a better place, yeah? And the truth is that London was never really planned. It grew as a series of villages that eventually all became connected up. So it started around Palace of Westminster. It started around where the Square Mile is. That was the Roman city, and then gradually it all joined up. So it's grown organically, and so there's a very finite amount of space between all the buildings. And the highway code says that everybody has a right to that space, everybody, pedestrians, cyclists, people with the new modes of mobility where people can move very, very fast and everything else. And everybody is trying to vie for that space. And Clara said that this is a moment for reflection, and it truly is. I thought Sam's film was wonderful, seeing the London of today, and I can hear the birds singing in the background. It's really interesting. So the planes have stopped flying, the trains have stopped running, and the cars have stopped moving, and we can breathe, and we open our windows, and it's been sunny, and you can dream of a brighter tomorrow. And with electric cars and hydrogen-powered cars, we can think there'll be less noise pollution. We think there'll be less air pollution. I happen to have asthma, so hopefully future generations will be less asthmatic. And so I think there's a brighter future. And for me, I've got to know my neighbours. People in London have started living a more self-sufficient way now. They walk or they cycle to their local shops. That could be the rebirth of the high street again. And I think that's an interesting thought. I think if we kind of imagine London again as a series of 15-minute cycles, you know, if you did a graph across the whole of London, particularly as London gets bigger and bigger, because quite soon we'll be a 10 million city, will be a mega city. So the pressure is going to be even more on the streets. But if you think of a series of 15-minute cities and you could get from one side to the other, that are more self-sufficient, that there's less need for people to commute, perhaps with the success of this new visual communication that we all enjoy now, new modes of working, more people working from home. But that need for human connectivity will never die. I mean, we're all desperate for it, right? Every single one of us. But I think the truth is a moment for us all to stop and reflect. And I think this whole idea that you have just now of engaging with everyone who uses the space between the buildings in London is an absolutely vital study. It's the right study at the right place at the right time. And it's great just hearing all your observations. I think it's incredibly important. When I worked on the study for Trafalgar Square, we had to consult 180 different organizations, 180. We had to talk to taxi drivers. We had to talk to the people who like pigeons, Victorian Society, Georgian Society. There's a lot of people who have an interest in London and how people move around London, quite rightly. But everybody has to have a voice, and people in the gig economy, you absolutely are key workers. You're delivering all sorts of very, very important things, and the people who are traveling with kidneys for people, getting them direct to hospitals when the city is really clogged. So what I'd encourage you to do as young urbanists is come up with the wildest suggestions for Clara and Alejandro about how you would like your London to be when you're my age, you know, 20, 25 years, whatever it is. For the next generations, how would you like the space to be? What's interesting since I started working in London is how often the streets of London change. So last weekend was going to be the London Marathon. And you see how London completely changes when there's a marathon, and people, it's taken over by everyone who are running the entire city and the millions of people that turn out to celebrate it. Or there's the great cycle ride in the summer, you know. I don't know how many people we have, maybe, I don't know, 20, 30,000 or more, you know. And so more and more people are trying to find new ways to use the space. So, you know, could London be a cycling Sunday once a month, the entire city? Could it? Could it be once a week? Could it? And of course, a city lasts for 24 hours and everything seems to happen between 9 and 5, and then the rush hour extends more. So it's more 12 and 12. But what kind of movements can you have on the streets, more movements in the evening when you have electric cars and they're quieter and there's no longer noise pollution. So, you know, as we become a more global world and we work in different time zones, we have more of a 24-hour city. So what does that mean to the space between buildings? And I think it's all wrapped up. And everybody should have a voice. You're all entitled to have a voice and a contribution, absolutely. And I admire you for what you do, I have to say.
Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you so much for your sharing. I think this is essentially what we want to do. We want to kind of seeing this, you know, from perspective of couriers and how the city is different and how it should be organized for different users. Essentially, I think the next project that I want to put up for this research is that definitely for sure I want to do a design survey with all of you. A design survey as in to kind of group together, be in a workshop together and start to sketch something on the city of map of London. So that would be kind of my conclusion. Alejandro, would you like to add anything?
No, thank you, Andy, for those words. They're really, really inspiring for all of us. I think we, as Clara said, the intention of the project was actually raise a bit of awareness and give the couriers and everyone a voice, because I think the discussion for couriers is really focused, as I said during the presentation, on contracts, but no one is talking, or at least not as many people are talking about how the city is designed, because we're using and we're living in a city, in the case of London, that, as you said, is it's a Victorian city that is divided within kind of small villages with super narrow streets, and there are not even avenues that kind of articulate the city. And we've got new trends such as the gig economy as it's growing at the present, that somehow it's not fitting within the city that is being designed till now. So I think we have now a great challenge in front of us, and super inspiring to actually rethink, as you said, Foster and Partners rethought what Trafalgar Square could be, and moved from being a roundabout to being the square that we know at the moment. So I think we have to kind of make that exercise, looking at the entirety of the city of London and also the cities across the city. So I hope this is inspiring for all of us, and we get as many ideas as possible. As you say, when the crazier the better. Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. It was a success. Our first Zoom webinar, and definitely not the last one. I'm not praying for the lockdown to carry on for ages, but we'll definitely do more of these Zoom seminars, because I thought it worked really well.
Okay.
So yeah, we're just going to thank everyone.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Everyone.
Thank you.